Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another exciting edition of Transformers Reviews. Now, if you guys have been around the channel for a while, you know that because Hasbro loves to revolve around the black hole that is Generation 1, it should be no surprise that we've taken a look at a dirge or two. Obviously, there has to be an Optimus Prime in there somewhere, and we've even delved into third column baddies. But, again, if you know my channel, you know that I will always have a particular interest in a part of the franchise, which is none other than Beast Wars. However, we're going to be looking at something that actually was originally intended to be new iterations of the leaders from Generation 1, but later got retconned into the Maximal and Predacon commanders that we would eventually see in the show. And that would be Alligator Megatron and Bat Optimus Primal. Now, if you're wondering where are the Gorilla and the T-Rex, like I said, this actually predates the show and predates actually who the characters they would eventually turn out to be. But they're just such unique figures that we'll take a look at it. Without a further ado, now some of you may actually recognize the figure on the table. We've actually taken a look at this guy, and it's a great mold. I don't want to rehash it, but you can definitely see with some of the colors on this boy how closely it resembles the original, and even small details like you see the yellow eyes with the painted mouth. Even on the Titans Return version, they went ahead and did that. So again, I always thought it was an excellent choice to use Mind Wipe's mold for that. You know, even for a early genesis of the Beast Wars figures, you can look at the fur detail and everything. And for a simple little, change figure, it actually works. And I do kind of find it interesting to think of Optimus as, what if he had been a bat? But the funny thing about that Optimus that we were just looking at from 2016 is it included a Titan Master that turned into this head. And as we will see later on, it actually has some similarities to the head that we'll see with Gator Megatron. So obviously they used two good molds to homage some very obscure guys, but I find it very amusing. So good job, eHobby. However, this Megatron mold was actually the same as the original Iguanus mold. They just obviously remolded it to be this. It does have motion in the legs, but I mean, there's not a whole lot. It's a very simple figure, so I don't know what you're expecting from it. So let's see how they fare against some compadres. And here he is with Rat Trap, which you can see the proportions are hilarious. As you probably have picked up on, is they have a deal where you just pull a section of it and part of the robot, if not all of it, transforms. So for two basic guys, it is kind of cool just to see how they stack up to each other, even if the proportions are incredibly off and slightly hilarious. And then for Megatron, I kind of pulled a Predacon that's of similar size, that being the McDonald's Manta Ray, and I think that she works better with him, at least size-wise. It's a little bit better than the ones that we were just looking at. So I think the commercial for these guys actually said it best.
In the beginning came the beasts, but nature lies, they're robots in disguise.
So here is Beast Megatron with his backup. And what's funny is, even though there are a slight variation in styles here, the simplicity of both these figures doesn't mean that they totally clash that bad. Now, one of the things that you might have noticed that I actually originally mentioned was that it was actually meant to be the Generation 1 Megatron, which when you look at the head, despite the gator teeth coming up from the bottom jaw, I've always thought that that Megatron head just super screamed like a vague similarity to Generation 1. And before we show you Megatron compared to his 2016 upgrade, I felt it only fair to show you Optimus with his backup being Rat Trap. And it is kind of a unique kind of feel to see him and Rat Trap be the same size in robot mode, especially with how kibble heavy these guys are. But you know what, that's part of the early Beast Wars charm, I kind of feel. And I like how these guys look together. Now, one thing that you may be clocking is the head. And the thing is this figure was originally designed to mimic Batman's head. And I mean, that's no joke. I mean, look at this figure. You know, it's a giant bat. So the Optimus slash, you know, Batman style head, it is kind of cool. But another thing that you might have picked up on is these scimitar blades, which I do find it funny that in both the show and the gorilla figure that followed this, Optimus had scimitar style swords. So who knows, maybe that was something that originally survived from this mold into, you know, the later incarnations that we would see. I think even though this was a repaint of the Galvatron Titan Master, I think the face, especially how it ties in with the colors and everything, it does kind of evoke this grape face here. The one thing that really sells this thing impressively is the fact of how you can configure the Titan Master thing. In reference to the original one, you can actually connect it, represent the original rifle. As we can see here, it makes an excellent nemesis for Convo Bat, as we'll see here in a minute. This thing, they just went to town with how they could represent the old guy. So what I was talking about earlier with him is, you know, you look at like the reference to the knees, the forearms with the red. But the one thing that blows me away is because on the Convo Bat, his beast mode head is back here, whereas on the original it's on the front. Yet, as you can see the yellow eyes in robot mode, they went ahead and painted the chest to match this, and where there would be the eyes for the beast mode, you can see they've even gone to the detail of putting the yellow in there. I just dig the overall aesthetic because you guys know I loved winged robots, and to see this guy and to have the swords just add an ultimate effect. And oh, I think the favorite of mine between the two is going to be Optimus Primal, just because man, I just love everything about it. As awesome and as posable as the new guys are, I do have to say that nothing really beats the original figures here, because they're not bad either, especially being among the first Kenner generation of Transformers. They're actually really decent, and so I'm just so happy to have them now. They're a nice little addition to the collection. Anyway, guys, that has been a look at the Alligator Megatron Bat Optimus Primal combo set from the early 90s. I hope you guys enjoyed our quick look that we took, and until next time, guys, I'll see you in another review.